Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Hour 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We're on Radio Row. SEC Football Media Days 2026. Half that work week officially in the rear view mirror, working towards the weekend, and appreciate you hanging out with us. Got to talk about the Texas A&M Aggies a little bit later on in this hour. Mike Elko is on the podium in the big room right now addressing the masses, and that's why there's not as much commotion going on out here, because there's a coach talking in there. And we're going to talk A&M coming up in our next segment. So plenty to do over the course of the next hour. We're going to start with our in-depth chart series that we've continued on talking LSU football, gone position by position, started on the offensive side. Now we move over to the defensive side of the football. Handled linebackers yesterday. We'll go out to the perimeter with the cornerbacks today. Obviously, a gaping hole in that LSU defense with the departure of Mansour Delane, who, to me, had one of the greatest coverage seasons in the history of the program. Like, I would absolutely put Mansour Delane's 2025 in with Corey Webster in 2003 and Patrick Peterson in 2010 and Morris Claiborne in 2011, Derek Stingley 2019. Like, I think he was that good in man-to-man coverage last year for LSU. He was just phenomenal, and the Chiefs saw that. The Chiefs picked him number 6 overall in the NFL draft after Mansour Delane allowed 2 first downs last year in the passing game. Just incredible work by the former Virginia Tech Hokie and LSU Tiger. So now he moves on. He has gone to the NFL draft, and you've got to play without him. And LSU's got 2 guys who were very busy last year because of Mansour Delane. You've got P.J. Woodland on one side and D.J. Pickett on the other side. LSU able to keep both of them. You know, Pickett is the first guy that Corey Raymond got upon returning to LSU. We've talked about the Florida Gators today. Corey Raymond spent a couple of seasons there under Billy Napier and then came back to LSU. Brian Kelly admitted that was a horrible mistake to let him walk out the door. And immediately, Corey Raymond started identifying elite high school players and getting them into the boat and developing fantastic coverage defense. And LSU was great in pass defense last year, largely because of Mansour Delane and these 2 guys. Pickett is 6'5". He's 190 pounds. That 190 pounds number is big for a cornerback, but he doesn't look big because he's 6'5". He's added a little bit of weight, but he's got enough physicality to play at that size. Last season, he played in all 13 games. He started 3 of them. He was targeted 38 times, and he only allowed 20 catches. That's a 53% completion percentage. He broke up 2 passes, had 3 interceptions. He did allow 3 touchdowns. But for that work, On 3 called him the National Defensive True Freshman of the Year, said he was the best in the country. Football Writers Association of America called him a freshman All-American. He also was physical enough to get up there and make 37 tackles, including 3 TFLs, and he had a pair of sacks. It was a very, very productive, very strong freshman season for DJ Pickett, and now can he back that up as a sophomore becoming the number 1 corner? P.J. Woodland will be on the other side, and that's a dude who plays way bigger than he is listed. 5'11", 164, not very big, but he plays bigger than that because he's fearless. We've seen that from P.J. Woodland for 2 seasons. He was targeted more than any corner on LSU's roster last year, 42 times. And he only allowed 20 catches. That's a 48% completion percentage. He broke up 9 passes, had 2 interceptions, and did not allow a touchdown all season. He also made 41 tackles. So that's your 2 guys on the outside. And I think at that point, LSU's in really good shape. Like, Pickett and Woodland is a good enough 1-2 on the outside for LSU to feel like your DBU, you've got a top-level cornerback duo. I don't know if it's as good as Stingley and Fulton, but it's good. Beyond that, I have my concerns. Like, I just do. You've got Jakeem Jackson, who obviously Corey Raymond thinks a lot of. He recruited him to Florida, recruited him to LSU, kept him around at LSU, but he hasn't played a ton. He's 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. He's played 4 college seasons, and he's made 2 starts total in those years. He's played in 24 games, and he only played 84 snaps last year on defense, and 63 of those, 2/3 of those, were against Southeastern Louisiana, Western Kentucky, and Houston. So not a lot of SEC action for Jakeem Jackson. He was a guy that played against the lesser competition. I think Jakeem Jackson's the number 3 corner. I think Aiden Anding would have been the number 3 corner. I think Aiden Anding was emerging as the 3rd corner for this team after a redshirt year as a freshman. He was on track to be a dude for this team in his 2nd season, and we were in Tiger Stadium in the spring. He jumps a route in the right flat, intercepts it, and blows his Achilles. We saw it right there. They carried him off the field, put him down on the cart. They looked at him for a long time, and we knew pretty quickly that was going to be bad. He blew his Achilles out, so he's not going to play this year. So now you're looking at depth behind Woodland, Pickett, and then Jakeem Jackson, and it's like Michael Turner. He's long and rangy, but he's 162 pounds. Haven Finney, yeah, he was a very highly rated recruit, another one of these guys that Corey Raymond identified, got the length, got the size, got the speed, and brought him in, but he reclassified, so he's a year younger. So you're talking about a guy that's probably 18 years old. He's 6'1", 173. We saw him in the spring. Not huge, but he's here. And then you got Des Ellis, who's a freshman as well. He's from the line that Corey likes to pick from, where he finds a guy that's got length and is a good athlete, but maybe hasn't played DB as much. And Des Ellis was a quarterback. He was a quarterback at Franklin Parish. He was an all-state quarterback. He ran for 800 yards as a junior. But he's got the traits that Corey sees in his top corners. So they bring him in. He's a freshman. And you realize that you didn't have enough depth, so they went out in January and got Traylon James, who has played at Southern and Prairie View in the SWAC, and then they went and got Levante Williams from JUCO, but they listed him as a safety on the roster. Like, you just don't have the depth at corner. You are one cornerback injury away from being in significant trouble. However, if you don't have an injury, which is a big if, but if you don't, you're in really good shape. It's like the exact opposite of like wide receiver, where LSU's got like 7 guys behind the top 2 or 3 that are kind of all interchangeable in terms of their ability to play in the SEC. At corner, you've got 2.5. Like, I don't know that Jakeem Jackson is going to be a dude for you. But if you can keep Woodland and Pickett upright, and those can be your bookend cornerbacks for 12 games, you've got one of the best cornerback tandems in college football, I think. I think they're that good. If one of those guys tweaks an ankle, tweaks a hammy, all of a sudden you've got heaven forbid, but we're playing, it's July. We're playing this scenario out. If Pickett were to go down for 3 weeks, you've got Woodland and Jakeem Jackson, and then maybe Haven Finney, maybe Michael Turner as your 3rd corner in the slot. Now, what helps LSU here is that I do think that LSU has 3 safeties that can play and can help cover. I think DeMarcus Cooley, Deshaun Spears, and Ty Benefield can all be on the field at the same time. So if you need an extra defensive back, no, it's not a traditional corner, but you can put Deshaun Spears out there to cover. He covered brilliantly last year. You can put DeMarcus Cooley out there to cover. I don't want to do it for 40 pass attempts, but in some certain situations to get DBs on the field that know their assignment and have SEC ability, you can play an extra safety, which helps with your cornerback depth. But it's not an ideal situation at corner. That is if you're asking me to list concerns about this team for LSU this year, somewhere in the top 5 is cornerback depth, because you just don't have it. And they realized it, but it was too late. And you had the season-ending injury in the spring that you just didn't want to have. Lane Kiffin did everything in his power not to have spring injuries. They didn't tackle. They took days off. They shortened practices. Like, he is trying so hard to keep guys healthy. It's something he talks about in press conferences all the time. But ultimately, the guys have to go play football. They got to go practice. And Aiden Anding's injury was not anybody's fault. Nobody did anything wrong. Nobody hit him. It's just one of those deals. You got a non-contact injury, and it costs you a season. So that's a huge bummer, and it's at a position you just really can't afford to have it, and they did. So it's a very encouraging spot at the top of the depth chart. It's a very concerning spot beyond that. That's just where I see LSU at cornerback. A reminder, if you want to get up to date on LSU's roster and get ready for fall camp and start to read some about football, for getting you in that zone here from SEC Media Days, I've got a breakdown of every single position on LSU's roster at louisianasports.net. Go to the teams tab, go down to LSU, go over to LSU football, and it's all right there if you want to read about it. It's called In-Depth Chart. That series was 2 weeks ago, but I knew that we were going to revisit it on the air once I got back from vacation, and here we are doing one position every day. We'll hit safety tomorrow. And just a spoiler for that segment, I think Ty Benefield's awesome. We're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. I want to give great thanks to our sponsors, FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, Parish Construction and Roofing, Relief Windows, and Rev Fiber for making our broadcast possible from Radio Row at SEC Media Days from Tampa. Been a ton of fun, and we're still cruising along here, day 3. Talk a little about Texas A&M Aggies and Mike Elko when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Always love the opportunity to tell you about Fabry Chevrolet GMC. They're online at fabrychevrolet.com. That's fabrychevrolet.com. And they got some awesome deals if you can get by Fabry Chevrolet GMC on Highway 61 in St. Francisville before August 3rd. And you've got some time to do that. So go by and see them and get the awesome savings that they've got. GMC is offering employee pricing on the 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali's. Now until August 3rd, you can get up to $8,000 off select Denali's. Chevy is also offering 0% APR financing for 5 years on the 2026 Silverado 1500s, plus no monthly payments for 90 days now until August 3rd. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC. They're online at fabrychevrolet.com.
Live from the 2026 SEC Football Media Days in Tampa. Presented by Parish Construction and Roofing, FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, Relief Windows, and Rev Fiber.
Roofing, they're online at lifetimeroofing.com. That's lifetimeroofing.com. Go with the roofer that offers a lifetime workmanship warranty. That's the folks at Lifetime Roofing. That warranty also covers the materials that are backed by CertainTeed, one of the oldest and most trusted names in building materials. If you're looking for professional installation of gutters, professional installation of siding, professional installation of windows, all those things on the exterior of your home, Lifetime Roofing is happy to help you with that. Obviously, we've got a tropical situation in the Gulf right now. Not sure, because I'm back in Tampa, what the impact is going to be in South Louisiana. But if you do have issues, if the rainfall causes leaks or exposes leaks and you feel like somebody needs to go up and take a look at your roof, contact Lifetime Roofing. They're online at lifetimeroofingla.com. That's lifetimeroofingla.com. Okay, full disclosure, I absolutely whiffed on the Jimbo Fisher era at Texas A&M. I saw him recruiting elite players, and I was like, this is going to work. They're going to be good. And they weren't. They stunk because Jimbo didn't know how to call an offense anymore, and they just deteriorated. So with that in mind, that I was that wrong on that era, I'm kind of buying into this one too, because I think Mike Elko is really good. They are recruiting the high school at a really high level. Now, I know those guys can transfer, absolutely, but he's stockpiling talent. He's a really good defensive coach, and they've won a lot of games over the last 2 years. Now, I'm fully aware that the offense has absolutely disintegrated at the most crucial times the last 2 years with Marcel Reed under center. They got embarrassed in that Texas game in Kyle Field 2 years ago, the first time those two were reunited in conference, Thanksgiving night. SEC championship game on the line, college football playoff on the line, and Texas didn't even let them score a touchdown. Won that game. And so that was bad. And then this past year, they got off to that unbelievable start, and you're coming to the Texas game at the end of the season, undefeated 11-0, and you get beat 27-17, a 10-point loss, and then you host Miami in the playoffs, and you can't score a touchdown. Like, second time in 2 years, it's all been on the line in your home stadium, and you can't score any points. And so that's a problem. Now, their offensive coordinator, Colin Klein, moves on to Kansas State, and they promote Holman Wiggins from within, who has not called plays. But he's been there, and you've got a veteran quarterback. But there's some things to like. Their playmakers look to be really explosive. You've got Ashton Bethel-Roman, who's got elite speed. They bring in Isaiah Horton from Alabama, who is a game changer with his speed. Mario Craver is a really good slot receiver that had a big year for them last year. Reuben Owens, a former 5-star recruit who can be a bell cow back. They got playmakers, but the question is not about the playmakers, and it's not about the defense for me. I think their defense is going to be awesome. The question is Marcel Reed good enough to win huge games, and do you replace 4 starters on the offensive line properly? And you're looking at a team that is probably going to start on the left side of their offensive line, Tyree Adams and Cohen Eccles, two former LSU Tigers that started for LSU on the left side of the line when they were healthy. Adams at tackle, Eccles at guard. If the offensive line is good and Marcel Reed improves over last year, he's not going to be the Heisman winner, but if he improves, they've got a chance to win the SEC. If the offensive line takes a big step back and Marcel Reed is not very good, well, then all of a sudden you've got a problem. And that is probably what a lot of people are going to project. They're going to project that Texas A&M doesn't score enough points on offense because they haven't in big moments the last 2 years, and Marcel Reed is kind of shrunk. But we're biased because we watched Marcel Reed in the second half in College Station 2 years ago and in the second half in Baton Rouge last year just eviscerate LSU's defense. That is burned in my brain. And if that guy shows up for Texas A&M, they can be awesome. That is the deal. I don't know that they're going to go on an 11-game win streak like they did last year. They clipped Notre Dame by a point in the game they probably should have lost because there should have been a false start. They beat Auburn by 6. They beat Arkansas by 3. They beat South Carolina by 1 in a game they were trailing by 100. And they came back and won out of nowhere. Like, a lot of things had to go right for them to get where they were. But I don't think it's smoke and mirrors. I think Texas A&M is going to be pretty good. I think Mike Elko is an elite defensive football coach. I think he's really smart, and I think they've got a lot of good players. So I think that I'm buying in on this era of Texas A&M football as being a threat. I certainly hope they don't win a national championship, but I do believe they've got a chance to be a threat. Now, you look at the schedule, and it's a light start. Missouri State, Arizona State, no Sam Leavitt, no Jordan Tyson, Kentucky. Those are 3 games they should win at home. Then you go on the road to Baton Rouge. LSU will have just played Ole Miss. That's a weird spot to catch LSU. We'll see how that goes on a Saturday night in Death Valley. Then they play Arkansas in College Station. They'll win that game. They're at Missouri. They should win that game. Then it's the Citadel. If they go to LSU and win, then I think you're looking at a team that is 7-0. And the last stretch here includes 3 road games and 2 tough home games. It's at Alabama, at South Carolina, home Tennessee, at OU, Texas in College Station. Now that game, Texas in College Station, it'll be Arch Manning's regular season swan song. I think there's a pretty good shot that one of those teams or both of those teams has playoff aspirations at that point in the season, and it'll make for an unbelievable setting in Kyle Field and College Station. I think Texas is better than Texas A&M. I think they've got more top-end talent, and I trust their quarterback more. But that's going to be a tough place for Texas to go and win. They've beaten A&M the last 2 years. It's just going to be a tough place for them to go and win. My gut tells me that A&M drops 3 games and does not make the playoffs. But I think they've got a real chance to do it. I do not think what they did last year was smoke and mirrors. I do not think what they did last year was a fluke. I think that they have the foundation laid to be pretty damn good. They're not going to be Kirby at Georgia. They're not going to be Saban. But I don't think they're going to be Jimbo either. I think they're going to be a team that consistently is a 9-3, 10-2, 11-1 type team, depending on how some games go late. And if that's the case, you're in the conversation far more often than you're not. And that's kind of where I think Texas A&M is at this point. So that's a look at the Aggies and Mike Elko, who have just wrapped up their time in the big ballroom just right there in front of me. So that's a full day of interviews that are in the rearview mirror for all these teams across the Southeastern Conference. Today was Florida, Texas A&M, was Ole Miss, and I can never get all 4. I just can't do it. It's Florida, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and another team LSU plays, Alabama. That was the first one, and it was really boring. I talked about that at the top of the show. It was really boring. But yeah, Alabama was here. Ryan Williams, by the way, the fun fact about Ryan Williams. Everybody was talking about how he was a 17-year-old as a freshman. He's now 19, is going to have his degree in 2.5 years, and got married at 19. This guy is just doing things too early. He's playing college football at 17. He's getting married at 19. He's finishing college in 2.5 years at 20. That's impressive stuff. But that was the most interesting thing I found out about Alabama today. So let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll talk some Ole Miss Rebels with Brad Logan. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Joe.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com, swingeasygcbr.com. I know that the weather is coming in. It's going to be real wet in South Louisiana over the next couple of days, but that doesn't mean you can't play some golf. Go over to Swing Easy Golf Club, get into the simulator, and play Pebble Beach. You can play where they give that jacket away every April. You can play TPC Sawgrass. You can play Cypress Point. You can play Bethpage Black or St. Andrews. It's really cool. You hit your drives, you hit your second shots, you hit your chips and putts. You can card a score. Want to play by yourself, take endless mulligans. You can do whatever it is you want to do, and it's all in the comfort of your private bay with great seating options, a television, can crank some tunes, have a cold drink. It's a great scene over there on Segan at Perkins at Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Online at swingeasygcbr.com.
Live from the 2026 SEC Football Media Days in Tampa. Presented by FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, Relief Windows, Rev Fiber, and Parrish Construction and Roofing.
Coming to you from Radio Row, SEC Media Days 2026 from Tampa, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, always brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Time to talk about the Ole Miss Rebels, which we've done a lot over the last 7 months. Brad Logan covers Ole Miss. I find that you most often with Ben Garrett over there on 3, but I think you're a little bit everywhere. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, mainly the Talk of Champions. We have our podcast there. We've been. It's funny, you know. I was talking to Ben. I popped in and out of the show, and I felt like I wasn't on there at all, but I had so many interviews loaded that, you know, that I was very much available. And it's just drinking from a fire hose over here. I mean, you get the players and you get the coach, but only a short amount of time. But let me say this before we go any further.
Okay.
I have really appreciated your work over the years.
Well, thank you.
And then Rivers Huey behind the camera over here was great to put a face with a name.
Yeah.
So you guys do wonderful work, and I'm just honored to be here today.
Well, thanks. We're thrilled to have you. Let's talk about what went on briefly, and then we'll get into the future. But how would you describe and characterize November in Oxford? It was crazy from afar, and you were right there in the middle of it.
You know, it's funny. When everything kind of went down, I don't think there's anybody that could have done a better job than Keith Carter, the school's athletic director. Whenever everything was happening, and I'll take you a little bit back to the game prior to Oklahoma, and I forget who it was, but that's when kind of we all started thinking, okay, LSU's at play here, Florida's at play here. He's not, you know, solidified as a head coach. What's going on? Well, we go to Norman, and Ole Miss wins the game. I have the video of Lane pointing down, and everybody said, I'm staying right here. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what he said. He's staying, and I'm going to clean my language up for FCC, but I'm staying here. He said, I own this place. That's what he said. And, you know, you fast forward, the Egg Bowl happens, and Lane is as disengaged as I'd seen him. And I think at that point he kind of thought, hey, I'm going to move on. And we have the Egg Bowl. Alabama beats Auburn there at the end. You remember, if Auburn would have beaten Alabama, Ole Miss goes to the championship game. That didn't happen. And so the season in and of itself was over from that standpoint, from a championship game. But Ole Miss had to make a decision, and Keith Carter was very steadfast that if Lane did not make a decision, he would not coach the team. That's exactly what happened. Lane goes to LSU, and as you can say, the rest is history. Some people have said he burned it on the way out the door. I'm not going that far. I think there's no easy way to leave a championship caliber team. There's just no easy way to do it. You can look at both ways, and I think so many things can be true at one time. I think, number one, LSU is an incredible job that has national championship trophies to back, that it's one of the preeminent programs in the country. But he had a program at Ole Miss that was going to be playing for a national championship. What do you do? It's a tough call.
Yeah, it's absolutely a tough call. What was your personal reaction when you heard, I guess that was Saturday or Sunday?
It was Sunday afternoon.
That Pete Golding was going to be the move. What did you think when you heard that?
You know, we were at the Manning Center when it happened. We were streaming live. That was the very early stages of Talk of Champions, and here we are months later. But we were streaming live from the Manning Center, and I forget the number of people that was watching. And I said, Ben, I'll tell you, I'll just take my laptop and computer, and we'll just go live from there. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And I mean, it's like one of those things you see on a movie.
Yep.
And so I'm interviewing students, and and all of a sudden the computer just blows up. My thought process was that Joe Judge would be the interim head coach through the playoff with a chance to, as Rivers knows, big Mississippi State guy, Joe Judge, who I thought would be the head coach at Mississippi State. But we'll talk about that later. But Joe Judge is basically the quarterback on offense. He is the guy that calls the shots. He was Lane's right-hand man. I mean, Charlie Weiss Jr. is a terrific offense coordinator. I'm not taking anything away from him, but Joe Judge plays a large role in that offense. and I thought he would be the interim coach. He was not. It came out that Pete would be the head coach, and then it was full-time.
Right.
And that's just Keith Carter looking ahead, because I was like, whoa, I don't know about this. I mean, Pete and I go way back to Delta State whenever he was a player, and then he was a GM under Rod Roberts, who's now at Florida. So I thought, yeah, let's make him the interim. Anyway, fast forward, he goes 2-1 in the playoff. He's won defensive pass interference from playing from a national championship against Indiana. And as you can say, once again, the rest is history. I wasn't as much in support of it, but obviously after 2-1 in the playoff, you can see where he has evolved on the job. Nick Saban, the trio of Kirby Smart, it's just incredible to see what this program has done.
What's more important, the infrastructure around Ole Miss football that stays intact, or the changes that Pete Golding makes as now it's his program as opposed to Lane Kiffin's? What's more important?
That's a fantastic question. And one thing that Pete talked about in the media op just a little bit ago is he talked about taking the best of what he learned, and I'm paraphrasing, what he learned from Saban, from Smart, from Lane. And he talks about, to be an elite program, it's one thing to be elite on the field, but to be a complete program, you have to be elite off the field. And he's talking about being elite from putting the cleats on to putting the cleats off. So I think what he's taking away from what he's learned from everybody, we had him on our show a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him about what's the biggest difference or one thing that he learned. He's like, look, he says, I'm not pushing away from your question. He says, but theoretically the players, I'm not sure I agree with this, but he said the players really don't care who runs them out of the tunnel. And I think in some ways that's probably true, but I think in some ways it's not. But he talks about how it's important to put the focus back on the players and not so much on the coaching staff. Now, that was a shot at Lane, because these two players that are up for the Heisman Trophy this year, being Kejuan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss, did not get that type of shine last year. This year they are, and I think the main thing that he's doing is putting the focus on the players, but he's implementing what he's learned from all those different programs, the feeding, the training table for one, the offseason workouts, all of that is kind of rolled into one, and I think that's what we're seeing change.
Brad Logan is our guest, covers the Ole Miss Rebels, Talk of Champions, also contributes to Ole Miss Spirit over there on 3. I'm curious about this football team in 2026. You bring Trinidad Chambliss and Kejuan Lacey back, and they're now going to be playing for John David Baker on the offensive side. Does that going to look the same as it did last year, or are there going to be significant differences?
This is probably not the answer you're expecting, but I'm not necessarily, from an overall value of a program, I'm not necessarily looking at what happens this year. I'm looking at what happens in 2-3 years down the road from a program standpoint, because this theoretically still is Joe Judge / Charlie Weiss's team. I mean, you've got the core of that offense back. Now, I will say the defense has changed considerably with a couple of players going into the portal, one being T.J. Daugherty. We'll hear from him tomorrow down in Baton Rouge. So Ole Miss had to get 2 linebackers out of the portal, which I think are really good. They've got a couple of defensive ends. I just asked William Eccles a little bit ago, tell me a little bit about Blake Purchase and Jonathan Maldonado, and his eye is lit up. So that's good news from a defensive standpoint. Pete said today, nobody's talking about the defense, really, because you've got Chambliss and Lacey. So I think they're going to be really good schematically on defense, and with, Pete kind of still having his hand on that. The problem with Ole Miss, Hunt, is their schedule this year is just absolutely brutal.
It is.
I'm selfishly, I love going to Tiger Stadium, and I wish this game were at LSU. I don't know why they went back-to-back in Oxford, so I'm looking forward to next year going back to Tiger Stadium. But the schedule, as you're looking at it there, on the road at Texas, I think that Florida game on the road after Baton Rouge, after LSU, regardless of what happens, whether you win or lose, you've got to get up or figure some things out. You got to go on the road to play John Summerall in Florida. So the schedule is absolutely brutal.
It is. Let's talk about LSU and that game. What's that going to be like in Oxford? Is it going to be as big a to-do as everybody's making? Okay.
It is.
All right. Well, tell me about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Let's do it. I mean, is it?
I've been very long-winded. I'm not going to be long-winded on it. Yes, it's going to be a zoo. It's going to start on Monday, and it's going to end sometime Sunday evening. And one team's going to party a lot harder than the other. And, look, Lane's going to say the right things. He may even say a little bit tomorrow. But, game week, he's going to really play it down. But he wants it to be an absolute circus.
Yeah, well.
I'll tell you one game I'm interested in. We can talk about the Ole Miss, LSU game. I'm interested in that Tennessee game because Josh Heupel kind of
Fan the flames a little bit.
He threw a couple daggers, and that's not a guy that's sitting on a very cold seat either.
No, it's not.
He's someone that needs to figure some things out.
And he never says anything interesting either. So when he said that, I was like, that's not normal.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? And then nobody really laughed. They're like, did he just make a joke? So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know about calling the National Guard in, but you know, it's going to be very heightened security, and I think Ole Miss fans. I'm crossing my fingers for people listening on the radio 104.5, but I'm crossing my fingers that there's nothing, you know, untoward happen during the game. So, and I think in large part Lane kind of wants it to be a crazy environment, and I think it's going to be. So, yeah, it's going to be absolutely insane. It's just, and I mean this in the kindest, most non-LSU way possible, it's going to be another night, Saturday night in Death Valley. It's
going to be something like that. I'm curious if Ole Miss fans feel a little bit more resentment towards LSU right now, currently, than Mississippi State. Is that a possibility?
That's not a possibility, sir. That's a fact.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately, Rivers apologized about this, but Mississippi State is not really in the stratosphere of this whole thing. Now, once everything settles down, and you know that the Bulldogs go to a couple of bowl games and you know maybe win an Egg Bowl or two, I think they're back in the picture. But yeah, right now it's funny. You know, I had Peter Burns from the SC Network. He and I talk a lot about this Ole Miss because he talks about Oxford a lot, and I know he's a friend of the program. And we talk about how in the olden days you had the Billy Cannon run in 1959, Ole Miss, and then Ole Miss beats them in the Sugar Bowl, and then it circles around. LSU kind of goes hot and wins all the national championship. Ole Miss cools off, and now it's kind of circled back to where I think LSU fans are. They may say that it's not much of a rivalry, but yeah, it is. Especially over the last 5-10 years. Ole Miss has had LSU's number, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But I've said it all along, and you didn't ask, but I'm going to give my thoughts on Lane, what happens over his career at LSU. Here's what I think is going to happen. After following him and just seeing how good of a coach he is, I think there are going to be some good things and maybe one or two bad things. The really good things, I think he stays probably around 5 years, and I think he's going to win a lot of games. I mean, you look at how he's recruiting the portal. I think he may even win 1 or 2 national championships. And I think the NFL is what will have him calling. Or unless Alabama, if anything happens there. That would be the only job I think he would leave for. And I'm not sure he would leave for that. Now, he might leave for professional ranks. He may even stay longer than that. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. But the bad news is when he leaves, he is going to torch it to the ground. And if he doesn't, then that'll be the first time he does it.
If there's a national championship in the back pocket, I don't think anybody will care.
You give me a couple national championships, I'll pour the gasoline for you.
We'll get the next guy. That's it. Brad, we appreciate some time. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
That is Brad Logan covering the Ole Miss Rebels and talking about what's going to be the show of the year when LSU goes to Oxford, Mississippi to take on Ole Miss in Week 3, September 19th up there in Mississippi. We got one segment to go. We'll step aside, come back. It's a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services, boudreauxonline.com. That's boudreauxonline.com. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. If you need a generator, this is where you go. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. It's the local option. You got a local team that will come out and assess your property, a local team that will do the installation of that Generac home standby generator, a local team that will monitor that generator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if there's a mechanical issue, you guessed it, a local team that will come out and fix it, because the last thing you want is to spend your money on a generator and then not have it ready to go when the power does go out. Don't let that happen. Let the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical monitor it. If you've already purchased a Generac home standby generator from the big box store and you never hear from them and you don't get great customer service, well, get the Boudreaux's Boost. You can call Boudreaux's Electrical and they'll just be your service provider. They're happy to do that. There are 2 locations. One down there in the 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562. Or in Gonzales at 225-300-9389. That's 225-300-9389. It's Boudreaux's Electrical Services.
Live from the 2026 SEC Football Media Days in Tampa. Presented by Parish Construction and Roofing. FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake. Relief Windows. And Red Fiber.
Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carbo and his team, happy to help you with your group and employee benefits. They do property and casualty as well, but if you're looking for group employee benefits, contact the Highland Insurance Group. There are a lot of folks that have had uncomfortable renewals over the last couple of years. A lot of folks who are struggling on the bottom line to make sure that their employees are covered for health and dental and vision and all that. if you're one of those that have had bad renewals or are scared about the one that's coming up and want a second opinion, the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you with that. As I tell you every day, they're not a magic bullet. They're not going to come in and knock 20% off your benefits. But they can offer a second opinion. They can offer a second option. They're an independent broker with contracts with many, many carriers, and they are happy to help you with benefits. So if you're looking for group employee benefits, looking for a better solution, contact Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at highlandig.com. Okay, I want to address one thing that Brad said there at the end. Really appreciate his time. Does an awesome job covering Ole Miss. Talking about Lane Kiffin burning LSU to the ground on the way out. And, like, that's a popular thing to talk about, and it's something that is not unreasonable to suggest. The exit from Knoxville was messy. The exit from Southern California was messy. The exit from Tuscaloosa was messy. The exit from Oxford was a disaster. So this has happened not like once, like 4 times. And it's very possible that it happens at LSU as well. I think if it goes the way that we were suggesting in the last segment, where Lane Kiffin stays at LSU for, call it 5 years with 1 national championship, if he does that and he wants to go to the NFL, the way the calendar lines up, he can coach through Thanksgiving. If you're not in the college football playoff, then you can take an NFL job in January. And if you do make the college football playoff, you can still take an NFL job in January. That's when those jobs are often filled. The Saints were really late on Kellen Moore because he had to coach through the Super Bowl, which gets you into February. But, like, oftentimes the NFL jobs open up after the end of the season, which is right in early January. And that's a reasonable time for a college football coach to make that leap. So I don't know that it's a guarantee that Kiffin will do that. I think it's unlikely he does what he did in Knoxville and in Oxford, where he jumps to another college job. I don't think he would take Alabama if they offered it, unless things were really not looking good at LSU, whatever reason that may be. But I don't. If he's really listening to Saban and he's really listening to Pete Carroll and I just don't think that's the job. I think he would have left a lot of places for Alabama. I don't know about LSU, and I just don't think that's a naive or conceited way to look at it. I just don't think it is likely. I think leaving Ole Miss for Auburn is very possible. I think leaving Ole Miss for Florida, very possible. Leaving Ole Miss for LSU, very possible. I wouldn't be fall out of my chair stunned if he left LSU for Alabama, but I just don't think that he would do it because I think I know what Saban thinks. And Saban, I think, thinks LSU is the job. So I think that it's more likely than not that it's a clean exit to the NFL for Lane Kiffin. Now, that's the last thing we really want to talk about today because Lane Kiffin hasn't even coached a game at LSU yet. He hasn't even gone through the SEC Media Days situation at LSU yet in the summer before his first season. So talking about the end is not necessarily something that we need to spend a ton of time on. But it's something that has, like, Brad didn't just invent that take. That's been something that people have talked about a lot, that, like, when he leaves, it's going to be a disaster. Like, maybe, but maybe not, because going to the NFL, the timeline, this was not an LSU Ole Miss thing. This was a timeline thing that he didn't want to leave in the middle of the season. You don't have to do that for the NFL. So I have a feeling that that might not be the case. I'm having a hard time encapsulating my emotions about the LSU Ole Miss game in September, because there's a part of me that wants to go, like, I'm just over talking about this game. There's a part of me that goes, actually, it's a really big deal. It's going to be a must-see TV event, and it's going to be between 2 teams that are really good and could be an epic football game that we talk about for 40 years. So, like, there's part of me that's like, I'm so sick of this stupid, he's going back to Ole Miss, mustard bottles, throwing golf balls, that whole thing. And then part of me is like, it could be kind of epic. No, I'm not going to be there. I know that, but I do also think that there's a part of me that thinks it would be something to see. So we'll see. We'll talk about it tomorrow, I'm sure. I'm interested how many questions Lane Kiffin gets from the assembled Mississippi media that is here. There's a pretty good size of Mississippi media here. Super Talk's got a couple of representatives in the big ballroom. Ole Miss is 24/7 and on 3 sites are here. There are different podcasts. Locked On is here. Like, there's a lot of Mississippi people here, and I'm curious how many questions Lane gets from them, because those will be the ones that kind of amplify the situation, but we won't know that until he gets into the ballroom a little after 9 o'clock tomorrow. So we got just a little bit left to go. Let's take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, so Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas, 8 Athletics rookie Joshua Karuta Grauer fouled a ball directly off his groin area, took a minute, then recovered, then got a base hit later at the at-bat, who had to leave the game as he would have to undergo an emergency surgery last night to repair a ruptured testicle. So is this an early contender for manliest man of the year? Take it or leave it. Or leave it.
I don't know how early it is. We're in July. We're in the second half of the year. But, yeah, that's a little toughness. I'll take that. I'm sure there's some people that have done some things tougher, but that's not something that anybody wants to go through. And the fact that he got a hit, he just couldn't run and stay in the game. I did not hear that story. That did not make it to me at SC Media Days in Tampa. But goodness gracious, that does not sound fun.
Yeah, nobody wants to take a ball right off the what. So new 76ers forward Jaylen Brown isn't letting up. Well, he isn't letting this trade stop his summer as he's continuing to do side quests. So a video is going viral of Jaylen Brown. He's currently in the Dominican Republic playing in a casual baseball league. So vacation idea, going to the Dominican Republic to join a little baseball. Take it or leave it. Or leave it.
I'm going to leave that. That doesn't sound like a vacation to me. That sounds like going to play baseball. My vacations, well, I play golf on vacation, but it's more of a relaxing and maybe imbibing is what we like to do on the vacation, not play baseball in the Dominican Republic. So, I'm going to leave that one. I'll play golf in a golf cart, but I'm not going to go stand on the Dominican dirt on my vacation. That's not what we're looking for.
All right, so this one's a little different. So SMU is naming its future athletic recovery center after its starting quarterback, Kevin Jennings. The facility will be called the Kevin Jennings Recovery Center, with Jennings becoming the first active player in school history to have an athletic facility named in his honor. So this is a new day and age where we're starting to see active players get facilities named after them. Take it or leave it. Or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. This is weird. I need to read about this. I don't understand what the purpose of that for. Like, the kid's not that great a player. It's not like he won the Heisman Trophy. If this is some sort of retention plan so he doesn't go into the transfer portal, it's a little odd. Usually you name the buildings after the rich people that give money. Maybe you're telling him if he makes some NFL money, he needs to send it on back thanks to the recovery center. It would be one thing if it was like a famous injury that he recovered from and there was some meaning behind that. Like, this is a weird thing. I don't understand why they're doing it.
Oh, no, most definitely. So I try to do a little bit more digging, and it really just sounds like, they haven't really released all the details behind it. Because I thought it was like an NIL thing. Like, all right, well, we're going to put a little NIL money into, get into the building. But it just sounds like they're putting in his honor. A lot of people are upset because, he's an active player. Eric Dickinson doesn't have a building named after him. So, yeah, that's what's going on, Hunt. That's what's going on, Hunt.
He was pretty good. Guy ran for 2 bills in the NFL. Like, there's not. I don't get that one. There's not. If he won the Heisman Trophy, I would understand it. But he's not even an All-American. Is he an All-Conference quarterback? I didn't even know the answer to that.
Yeah, when I think of Kevin Jennings, I just think of the Penn State game where he bleeped the bed. So that's it for Take It or Leave It. Or Take It or Leave It.
All right, that's it for Take It or Leave It here on this Wednesday. Our Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com. That's builtbyrenaissance.com. Contact Built by Renaissance Homes and Pools for the home and pool of your dreams. They can make it happen for you. My guy, Joey Blanchard, is awesome. He's the owner. You deal with him from start to finish. I give you his cell phone number every single week. So if you're looking for that new pool, if you're looking for that new outdoor kitchen, contact Joey Blanchard. You'll walk through the process. He'll be there as you go through the consultation. He'll be there for the design. He'll be there when they dig the pool, when they fill it, when it's finished. He's happy to help you. It's 225-252-7745. Again, that's 225-252-7745. It's Joey Blanchard, Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com. Builtbyrenaissance.com. All right, that's it for me here on day 3 from SEC Football Media Days. It's been a busy, busy show. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Started the show today with my reaction to Pete Golding, who I thought did a really, really good job on the on the main stage today. He talked about Lane Kiffin. He talked about tampering. He talked about a lot of different topics, and he talked about them pretty passionately and pretty candidly. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed our conversation with J.D. Piquel. We chat with him every single Wednesday, and he's here just right behind me currently. He was there chatting some SEC football. Brad Logan jumped on to talk a little bit about Ole Miss. I previewed the other teams that have gone through today, Alabama and Florida. So it was a great day. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound at Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, review all our LSU content at Hunt on LSU. You can find today's in-depth chart on the quarterbacks. That will be posted up on our LSU channel for YouTube. Hunt on Saints is where all our Saints coverage is, but not a lot on that front this week, as we're all SEC football all day and night. That's it for us. So I'm going to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow for LSU Day. Lane Kiffin will take the podium with TJ Dodd.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
On select new vehicles to firefighters, police officers, 911 dispatchers, and EMT paramedics. Chevy's also offering 0% APR financing for 5 years on the 2026 Silverado 1500s, plus no monthly payments for 90 days now until August 3rd. On the GMC side, they're offering employee pricing on the 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali's now until August 3rd. You can get $8,000 off on select Denali's. Check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com. Make the trip up Highway 61 to St. Francisville. Great customer service, great people. Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Online at FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com.